Week 10 of college football is here. The end is in sight. Enjoy it while we have it. Let's get started. First of all, in the Big 12 Conference, TCU playing host to Texas Tech. The Horned Frogs look to be the only Big 12 team with a chance to represent their conference in the college football playoff. They need to stay undefeated. I think they will. I think they cover the 9.5. I think they win easily over the Red Raiders. North Carolina and Virginia. How about North Carolina? 7.5-point favorites on the road. I like them straight up, and I like them on the road against the spread. UNC wins easily by more than the 7.5. Oklahoma State and Kansas. The Cowboys just 1.5-point favorites after getting shut out 48-0. What a result last week for Oklahoma State, losing in, I don't even know if landslide is the right term to use, to the Kansas State Wildcats. I like Oklahoma State to bounce back. Kansas has been struggling. They've lost 3 straight. I think Okie State goes on the road and is playing angry, and they win over Kansas on their own. They cover the 1.5. Michigan State and Illinois. Illinois 7-1 on the season. Unbelievable what Brett Bielema has done. They've taken advantage of a Big Ten West that's down. I think you're going to take advantage of a Michigan State that is down. The Illini are 16.5-point favorites. I like Michigan State against the spread. Now, I may regret that later. Michigan State has gotten blown out in some games this year. I like Michigan State against the spread. I like Illinois straight up. Game of the week, no question about it. Tennessee and Georgia, two teams who, regardless of result here, both teams will be fighting for a playoff spot down the stretch. Georgia, 8.5-point favorites. How about this? 8.5-point favorites over Tennessee, who's widely considered to be the best team in the country. But Georgia has been there before, right? They've been in this place more often than Tennessee has. I like Tennessee to cover the number. Georgia, 8.5-point favorites. I do like Georgia to win. And I would say it's a coin flip. It was on neutral field. I would have no idea where to lean, but the home field advantage too much. The Bulldogs get it done. Alabama taking on LSU in Death Valley. Alabama, 13.5-point favorites. I went back and forth on this one. I do have Alabama winning on the road. But again, home field advantage. I think LSU hangs around, maybe loses by 10 or 11, but Bama ultimately wins. LSU covers. Texas taking on Kansas State. What a performance last week. Alluded to that earlier for the Wildcats over the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. Texas, 2.5-point favorites on the road. A little disrespect to the Wildcats. I like Kansas State to win this game. Maybe I'm falling for the line here. I like Kansas State in both categories. They covered the 2.5 and win. Clemson taking on Notre Dame on the road. It looks like the Irish finally getting their feet under them a little bit. Clemson actually 4.5-point favorites on the road. They are fighting for playoff positioning. I like Clemson to go on the road and win at Notre Dame, and I think they win by more than 4.5. I like Clemson against the number. They take down the Irish. Florida State taking on Miami, the Hurricanes. What a disaster of a season it's been for them. Florida State's had their highs and lows, both these programs, though, nowhere close to where they want to be. Florida State, 7.5-point favorites on the road. I like Miami against the number, but Florida State straight up. Too many close losses. Miami goes down again. Wake Forest taking on North Carolina State on the road. Speaking of strong road teams, well, I guess Miami's not really a strong road team. North Carolina State have not lost at home yet this year. I like North Carolina State to win this game. Another pick 'em for me. I like North Carolina State to win, North Carolina State to cover. Wake, the 4.5-point favorites. Baylor taking on Oklahoma. Oklahoma, 3.5-point favorites. I like Baylor against the number. I like Baylor in both categories. I think they get it done on the road against a Sooners team that has got some work to do heading into the offseason. Which brings us to our game of the week, as it is every week. It's an Iowa game. The Hawkeyes taking on the Purdue Boilermakers. Some serious pressure on Purdue as they are vying for a West Division title. Iowa, of course, not out of the conference race, but most people don't expect Iowa to figure in when it is all said and done. At least I don't. I don't expect them to win out, although it's possible. None of these games left on the schedule are unwinnable. I talked about this on our preview for Iowa-Purdue yesterday. Spencer Petras has to have time to throw the football. And so will he be given time? I don't think he will be. Northwestern, they were able to generate basically no pass rush against that Iowa offensive line. And maybe the Iowa offensive line has improved. That's possible. But Purdue's going to send more blitzes. They're going to get into the pocket, make that pocket collapse. Anytime Spencer Petras even feels pressure, it's over. All right, it's over for the passing offense. So I think Iowa on the road struggles to run the football, even against a okay defense. This is an okay defense, right? It's a secondary that's banged up. It's a secondary that Iowa should be able to attack. But again, it doesn't matter. If Petras doesn't have time, his fundamentals are off, and he struggles to get the ball to where it needs to go. And we haven't even been Brian Ferentz has not proven to us that he understands how to take advantage of Spencer's strengths, which technically, if you look at his history, his strengths are to get the ball down the field. His deep ball is probably the best facet of his game, if you will. And Brian Ferentz has not proven that he's capable of game planning to suit his quarterback's needs and to suit the game in which they're playing. So with that being said, I've got Purdue winning this game. Now, Purdue is actually favored by 4.5. I like Purdue straight up. I like them against the number. Purdue wins 24-16. 24-16 win at home for Purdue. They take down the Hawkeyes. The Hawkeyes move to 4-5, and Purdue and Illinois, the two favorites, win again, setting up what's going to be a massive matchup between the Illini and the Boilermakers. Appreciate you tuning in for another Pick'em segment here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. A reminder, I'll be live with you following Iowa-Purdue for Iowa postgame. Stay tuned.